Pediatric dentistry residency is one of the toughest and most competitive dental residencies out there. So, how are you going to get into pedo? Stay tuned as we talk to a first-year pedo resident that matched this time last year, and he's going to share all the information about how to get into pedo and become a pediatric dentist. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin, the new dentist coach, another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dental school, getting into residency, and then life as a new dentist. This episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by Dr. Darwin On Demand, the ultimate and exclusive community for new dentists as pre-dents, current students, dental students, residents, and even international dentists looking to come to the U.S. to practice. In this exclusive membership and network group, we have weekly Q&As. We have a monthly mastermind class by leading professionals, specialists, and leaders in dentistry. For more information, look down below and go to thenewdentistcoach.com/on-demand. thenewdentistcoach.com/on-demand. See you in the network. So today's episode, we're going to be talking with Dr. DARIUS SANFORD, who is a pediatric resident, and he's going to help you learn a little bit more about how to get into pedo residency. So we're going to brush it up, floss it up, and push all the toothpaste out the tube so we can get all this good information here. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, probably not as good as you now that you're a pedo resident, man.
Right. It feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into it. First, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
All right, everyone. I'm Dr. DARIUS SANFORD. I am originally from McDonough, Georgia, and I went to dental school at the University of Louisville School of Dentistry. And I just recently matched into a pediatric dental program here in Springfield, Missouri. It's at a community health center called Jordan Valley. I've just completed my first 6 months and I'm starting another chapter of this residency program, and I'm happy to be here to share my story.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, we know that it's pedo is a hard and very challenging residency to get into. But before we start as to diving into that process, let's talk a little bit about why pedo. Why did you select pedo out of all the different specialties, right? We got ortho, you got oral surgery, you got endodontics, perio. Why pedo for you?
Well, so I've always had a passion for working with, the younger population and just kind of being a mentor. And so I knew going into dental school that I would want to work with kids. I knew that, spending time up in the pediatric clinic at my school, I really enjoyed, the time that I spent with the kids and just being able to motivate them and, form good habits at an early age. And so, and then I also got the opportunity to go to the OR a couple of times while I was in dental school and kind of see the kind of work that pediatric dentists do in the OR. And that was really appealing to me. And so I decided to just kind of go forward with it. And here I am today. So
That's right, man. So it sounds like probably sound like you started your process a little early, because usually D4 year is too late to go to the OR to try to figure out and explore whether or not, pedo's for you. So tell us a little bit about, when did you start this process? When did you know? And then from that time, what did you do as far as starting the process?
So my first year of dental school, actually, I met our pediatric teacher at the time. And so I told her I was interested. And so I would go up to the clinic and kind of shadow the residents. And I really kind of put myself in an awkward position because I remember going to the residence room and just kind of peeking in there and, introducing myself and telling them that I was interested. And I asked one of the residents if they would, go with me to Starbucks. And so we did, and we just kind of started chatting it up and talking about residency programs. And from there, they started inviting me to come up and see some of the more complex cases. And like I said, I started going to the OR and stuff like that. So I think I just really just put myself out there early on because I knew it was something I wanted to do. I knew that my grades and stuff weren't going to be as competitive, so I figured I had to do everything else I could to kind of put myself in a good position to become a competitive applicant. So
Yeah, you're right. And, a lot of programs, they still look at GPA. Some of them still look at class rank, but most importantly is your experiences, and during the time that you've decided to apply. So that was an amazing thing that you had enough discernment to be like, well, you know what? I want to go to PEDO. I got to start early. And for you to start your first year on the process, there you go. So those that are listening, start early. You got to start early in the process. Let's talk a little bit about the schools, because there are a lot of programs, and like we know, it's very competitive. Tell us a little bit about the number of schools that you applied to and why those schools for you.
So I will say I did apply to a lot of schools. I was trying to
10,
be.
15.
I applied to 23 schools.
Okay.
I knew that I would want to do that because I wanted to make sure I got into a program, and so I figured that I would have to kind of be open to going to a lot of different places and just kind of seeing what happens. So I applied to 23 schools. Most of the schools were schools that I either knew somebody that was already there, so I could have like some type of connection to the program, or the schools or programs where I had met some of the faculty at that program, or the program directors at a conference or something. So I was strategic in that sense, but I applied to quite a few schools. I would say more than most.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes, that's part of the process so that you can get the prize and get that position.
Exactly.
So, okay. So it sounds like your thought process was, let me cast a wide net.
Exactly.
Inside that net are people or programs that I know somebody there. I know the faculty or something. So let's see how it goes.
Right, right. And I
Right.
mean, don't get me wrong, there was definitely some programs where I didn't necessarily have a connect within the program, but I just thought it would be a good program based off of what I was looking for. I knew I wanted to go to a program that had a lot of clinical experience. I didn't want to feel like I was going to another 2 years of dental school.
Mm-hmm.
So those were things that I considered. So a lot of the NYU programs were ones that I was looking at because I knew that they would get a lot of clinical experience.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So 23 schools. Now you submit your application. Now it's time for interviews. So let's talk a little bit about the interviews as to, how many programs you heard back from that wanted to bring you in for the interviews. And then also share with us how that interview process went, because uh, I'm sure it was a little bit different than how it was, how it's going now, and then in the past as well. So any questions you remember about the interview? Any things that kind of stood out or kind of made you think, that's a good question?
Yeah, so I ended up with 3 interviews out of the 23 schools I applied to. So that part was a little upsetting, but I was happy to have an interview because some people didn't get any interviews at all.
That's 10%. You got 10% out of that 23. That's cool.
Exactly. So I remember the interview process. I was focused on mainly just showing my personality to the residents and making sure that that the program was a good match for me as well, based off of the things that they were telling us and their experiences. Some of the questions that I remember was basically, of course, tell us about yourself. What were some things that you could change going back in dental school? What were some of the hurdles you had to overcome? Any outside extracurricular activities or projects that you're passionate about. Those are some of the questions that I remember talking about vividly. I started a community service project when I was in dental school, and that was something I wrote about in my personal statement.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, at pretty much every interview, they brought that up in my interview. And
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was good. And again, like I said, just making sure that I connected with the residents and felt like it was a place that I could see myself at for 2 years. Those are all things that were important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those questions a lot of those questions will come from your personal statement, right? They want to, maybe dive in a little bit more based on what you've written. So, and that's your opportunity to just articulate it face to face, person to person. So make those words just scream off the paper with your personality. So that interview was so good. So it's an important component, and it sounds like you did very good as well. So 3 programs, interviews. Now it's time for match. You gotta rank your programs now, right? And for many people, it could be easy or it could be very stressful. Very stressful. Because it's like, well, I don't know if the program likes me. I like this one, but I didn't like this one as much. Do I not rank that program? So share with us a little bit, like how your process on how you selected and ranked your programs for match.
Sure. So it was definitely a difficult process for me. I had really liked all 3 of the programs that I interviewed at. Each one had its different strengths. It really came down to me, sitting down with 3 sheets of paper and kind of writing out the pros and cons of each program. How much are they paying me? How much clinical experience am I going to get? How much educational, components there are, as far as preparing for, licensure exam and stuff like that. PTO was one of the things that I was looking at.
And tell people what PTO is.
So personal time, paid time off. So, time to go on vacation.
Vacation or educational endeavors, what have you. Right.
Right. Because I knew I would want to be going to conferences and continuing to learn outside of my program. So that was something that was important to me. And pretty much every aspect of the residency program, I just kind of wrote out the pros and cons based off of my conversations with the residents and the faculty of those programs. And I chose the program that had, the most pros, and that's how I decided to rank as well. So,
gotcha. So, so you got into one of the programs that you ranked. Was it your first? Was it your second, your third? I mean, because sometimes people they get stressed out. It's like, oh, if I don't go to my first, do I really want to go to the second or the third?
No, I would be happy. I would have been happy with both my first and my second. And I ended up getting my second, and I'm happy I did because I'm really enjoying the program so far.
Good. And that's the most important one, because the program that you get selected for and you match is the best program for you, because that's the program that's going to train you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's good. That's good, man. Awesome. So congratulations with that. So you've been there now 6 months. 6 months. How have you been surviving so far? Tell us a little bit about what a typical day is like and what you've liked the best so far.
So I will say at my program now here in Springfield, we've gotten a ton of clinical experience. And so coming from dental school, seeing 2 patients a day to seeing, anywhere from 10 to 20 patients a day, it was definitely overwhelming at first, just because there's so much to learn and you're only here for a short time. But I would say after 6 months, my confidence has grown so much, in being able to treat patients and, have conversations with parents and just different behavior management techniques I've been able to learn from the second years and faculty, that I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. And I think one of the strengths of my program is that we have an OR that's within the community health center. So instead of having to wait for hospital availability and whatnot, we're able to treat these kids who have these complex medical histories or they can't be treated in the office. We're able to take them to our OR right there on site, and so that allows us to get a lot of treatment done that they need and provide the care for these families that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise. So I would say that's been one of my favorite parts so far, is being able to get that treatment done.
Yeah, because all our time right now during the pandemic, man, is precious and it's very limited. And it's like, a diamond in the sky. You're not going to find a whole bunch of diamonds and things that are precious. And that OR time is real precious. So that's a great plus. That's a great plus. All right, so this is the part that a lot of people just wait to listen to because they want to hear the tips. They want to hear the advice as far as what they can do. So knowing what you know now and going through your experience applying to pedo, give us, 3 or 4 tips and pieces of advice for applicants.
So I would definitely recommend spending a lot of time on your personal statement, because I feel like a lot of the things that come up in your interview are based off of your personal statement. And, the faculty and the residents and everyone who reads your personal statement, it's your opportunity to kind of stand out from the crowd. So spending a lot of time on that, getting a lot of people to read it and make edits. I think I made probably 4 or 5 different drafts of my personal statement before I was like, okay, this is what I want to submit. So just making sure that you have a very strong personal statement, I think, helped out a lot. Another thing I would recommend is any opportunity you can to kind of show your face to these programs, whether it be, going to conferences or having phone calls or anything like that. Anything you can do to kind of have your name pop up more than one time, I think will help. I was one of those dental students that was always going to conferences. I actually met the program director for one of the programs that I interviewed at a conference that I went to down in Atlanta. And so that kind of opened some doors for me as well. So just, kind of putting yourself out there, being where the residents are, just kind of try to fit yourself in with the program has been an effective strategy, I think, for me. Let's see, what else? Applying early. That was one of the things that you told me in our previous video. I think I submitted my application, mid-June, mid-July. And so I think getting your application on their desk as soon as possible is the best thing to do because, I feel like at a certain point, it's hard to get through all of those applications.
It is. It is. And as a program director, I remember going through those applications and it's a lot, man. So I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Apply early. Again, y'all listening? Apply early. So that means submitting it by June, which is about, a month after or less than a month after the application portal opens up. So that means, guess what? You got to have letters of recommendation, asking people for letters of recommendation, in the fall before you, in the fall of your 3rd year, because you're applying at the spring of your you're putting your application together at the spring of your 3rd year as you roll into your 4th year. So you got to have all of that done before then.
Yep.
Before then.
The earlier you ask for those letters, the better, because it can be frustrating. Faculty are busy, and so you might ask for a letter of recommendation. They might not get to it for another month or 2. So just not being afraid to stay on top of things, and I wouldn't say bug people, but show people that you really want it. It takes putting yourself out there and doing that. So.
That's good. Any other last tips you got? I mean, you gave 3 great ones, man.
I would say those 3 are probably the top.
They're the tops. Yeah. Any special projects you're working on right now, or things that you're looking to do at the completion of your pedo training?
So one, I don't know if you would consider this a project or not, but I am working on starting to do blogging and just kind of sharing my experience throughout residency. I feel like I was inspired by some of the things that I saw on social media from other dentists who look like me, and so I think it's important to kind of go back and do the same thing for people who are considering dentistry as a career or pediatrics as a specialty. So I feel like putting my story out there and sharing the aspects of my daily life is important. So I want to get better at posting more regularly and sharing those type of things. So.
Absolutely, because it's like a day in the life of a pediatric resident. So people really have that insight. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we would love to have you in our on-demand membership group, New Dentist Development Network, where we do some of those, kind of day in the life of a pedo resident, and those that are considering pedo can listen and learn from you, man. So we would love to have you do one of those sessions in one of the months that are coming up as well.
Absolutely.
That's great, man. So what's the best way for people to contact you if they have questions or just want to talk to you?
So my email is darius.sanford1@gmail.com.
Sanford SA, or here it is right here, guys. Check it out right there.
Yep. And then also my Instagram account is Dr.DARIUS.S. And people can reach out to me either way, email or Instagram.
That's great, man. Well, I'm glad we were able to reach out to you today. I know you've been busy. I saw a couple of posts not too long ago. You looked like you were in the OR and getting ready to do some intubations and stuff like that. So that takes time, I appreciate you being able to kind of share your journey to PEDO, and let's continue to follow you, and we'll have you on some other masterminds too, so you can continue to share a day in the life of a pediatric dental resident. That sounds good. Guys, check out this next video right here, and also check out Dr. Darwin on demand, thenewdentistcoach.com/on demand. Love, peace, and smiles. We'll see you next time. Thanks, man.